Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, not feeling all that well today. But still, I just want to do this review. Let's do it. Let's do it. The progressive era, PEEP the aPROcalypse. The progressive era is a New York hip-hop clique. This is their latest album / mixtape. And they've been on the rise ever since individual members of the group like Joey Badass and Capital Steez blew up with respective tapes and singles like 1999 and American Corruption, which just kind of exemplified that blueprint East Coast hardcore hip-hop sound, which there has kind of been a resurgence of lately, with a lot of artists from the East Coast kind of embracing the old school of things. Guys like Rex, for example, as well as producers such as Static Selecta, Action Bronson too. The progressive era is definitely trying to continue that progression of gritty East Coast hip-hop handed down to them by artists like Smith & Wesson, as well as Gang Starr, Wu-Tang, De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, Biggie, Organized Confusion, Black Moon as well. I mean, the list could really kind of go on forever. Progressive era pretty much takes what they feel are the best elements of a lot of these artists' styles and just brings them all together into one young, up-and-coming New York hip-hop supergroup. And they also take some cues from modern purveyors of sort of the boom-bap or old-school styles, such as Stone's Throw Records, artists like Madlib and Doom as well. A lot of the cultural references in the lyrics, of course, are modern, though the production is still pretty old school, maybe a little less stripped down than a beat you would normally hear in the 90s, simply because of the ease at which you can throw detail into a newer beat with modern technology, digital audio, and samplers as well. However, despite the fact that guys in the group like Chuck Strangers, who MC but also produce, could, make a totally tricked out modern beat with whatever kind of studio he's working in, he does pretty much stay true to that old school form. A lot of soul and jazz samples, bass lines, rhythm guitars, pianos, drum breaks, very dirty snares, hi-hats, and kicks. This mixtape was originally released on the 21st of December, when the apocalypse allegedly was supposed to come, and everybody was pretty much celebrating the fact that the world did not, I don't know what we thought it was going to do, melt. But at the time of the release of this tape, as kind of highlighted on the cover of this thing, Pro Era had about a dozen affiliates. Just a few days later, on the 24th of December, one member of the group, Capital Steez, just kind of saw fit to take his own life. It was extremely shocking and saddening to hear the news, not just because he was one of the standout MCs in the group who possibly had a pretty bright future in hip-hop, but to see a loss of life at such a young age is just always depressing. And as good as PEEP the aPROcalypse might be, it kind of puts a damper on the recording as a whole. Because of the loss of Capital Steez, in the way that he was lost, the dynamic of this group will be forever changed. Who knows what the chemistry is going to be like past this point. PEEP is a 17-track release. It's about an hour long, and you don't even have to listen to the whole thing, maybe even just half of this thing, to realize that they take the legacy of New York hip-hop very, very seriously. Pro Era's production, to their flows, to their lyrical styles, just reeks of New York City. However, that's not to say that these guys don't do what they do well. They actually do it incredibly well. I would actually say to the point where it feels maybe a little refreshing. However, a number one gripe I hear about Joey Badass and company again and again and again is that the music and just their style in general is just kind of drowned in nostalgia. I guess a lot of people just don't see the point of what Pro Era is doing in a genre such as hip-hop, where the emphasis for decades has always been to be new, be fresh, be on the cutting edge. However, despite their really vintage style, Joey Badass and the progressive era have caught on, especially with younger listeners. And I feel like some people will point at the state of mainstream hip-hop and even underground hip-hop at times and say lyrics have gone down the toilet, production sucks now, this sucks, that sucks, hip-hop has kind of lost its way. I feel like maybe to an extent it could be that, but mostly I feel like it has to do with hip-hop's age at this point. Hip-hop has legitimately breached that point where it is old enough to kind of reflect upon its past. Not only that, but rehash it, recycle it, and it sounds new and fresh to an up-and-coming generation that didn't live through that era. And that is something that at some point every single genre does. I mean, rock has plenty of artists that pretty much just rehash older ideas, and these artists, such as like the Black Keys or the White Stripes, have had very successful musical careers. So honestly, it's about time that hip-hop actually kind of had something like the progressive era. Despite their progressive era name, I mean, they're actually quite, I guess, regressive. I don't mean that in a bad way though. What I'm trying to say is that the progressive era have put themselves in a position where they have essentially become the new face of this new old wave of hip hop. Now, PEEP is not the progressive era's only album slash mixtape. They also had the sex tape that came out toward the beginning of last year, which was kind of spotty. Considering the quality of that tape, I'm not surprised that the group caught on faster through individual members like Capital Steez and Joey Badass. But overall, in comparison with sex tape, PEEP is way more mature, focused. Its skill set is of a higher grade, and I guess I would say it's a little less sophomoric too. The opening track on here, Like Water, has this beautiful piano sample, this vocal cut about the end of the world being near. I mean, it's a gorgeous opener with Capital Steez kind of leading the way with the first verse. To me, it's a track that just makes me feel nostalgic for the world that I currently live on, but nostalgic in a way where I would think, man, the world ended, it's over. Oh. After Capital Steez, Joey Badass and CJ come through. All three of these guys, when they pop up on a track, it sounds fantastic. I mean, they have such smooth, confident flows. Lyrically on this LP, there's a lot of freeform verses. The guys in the progressive era just like to hit listeners with a lot of similes and a lot of wordplay, especially from CJ. There are some themes that come up in the lyrics again and again and again that sort of reflect the state of the group as a whole, at least at the time of the recording of this tape, their success, their growth in numbers. Things like love interests, their past, their present, what they perceive to be their future, throwing out lines about world domination or even getting the attention and love from the West Coast hip hop scene. One of the few tracks on here that has like a clear point to it is aPROCrytic, which is a hilarious track with a really awesome Method Man sample rapping that aPROCrytic, they talk about it while I live it. And Chuck Strangers is a little sore on this track about how his bars have been perceived on previous pro-era affiliated tracks. Chuck Strangers and company continue to kind of spit about their rap lifestyle and stuff like that, but you know, maybe Chuck Strangers' bars on a couple tracks were sort of corny. Whichever way your opinion swayed on that, I actually think Chuck has kind of stepped up his game on whatever tracks he landed on with this new LP, sounding way more gruff, sounding a little more aggressive, kind of like he had something to prove, and I think he proved it. Another track that stuck out to me was the song Vinyls, which was led by group member Desi Hines, who, after this track, really stands out to me as someone who could also drop a big solo project in this group. I love the rhyme scheme that he goes into this verse with, doing a lot of internal rhymes within a line. Meanwhile, kind of telling this personal story of coming up in hip-hop, rapping about his amateur voice, and he does it all against this really mean funk groove. And Desi also leads another great track on this LP that stuck out to me, Natural, where he kind of delves lyrically into the art of rap writing, according to him. You know, when it comes to the power of writing, the power of lyricism, pro-era definitely has that. There are some spots on here that do come off maybe a little corny or underwhelming, some lyrical duds, most notably like the a la soul line where he's saying, you know, shorty called me a Big Mac, yeah, where are you at? And I guess the Kirk Knight feature track Florist was just maybe a little bland as well. But really, that's about it for near terrible spots on this album. There are moments on here like the last CYPHER, which lasts 8 minutes, a little bit shorter than the cut that kind of finished off Joey Badass's 1999, but still remained pretty engaging. I would actually say more engaging. Everybody pretty much came up to the mic and held their own for the most part, and together, I mean, the chemistry of this group, it just sounded fun. It was just fun to listen to. You felt like you were there. It felt like a cypher. It felt like it was just kind of unfolding in front of your face. It felt playful. It felt like everybody was in good spirits, I guess you could say. I was surprised by the kind of De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, Native Tongues sort of, you know, lighter vibe of this tape. I thought that maybe Pro Era, because they want to come out strong, they want to grab attention, they would go a more violent, aggressive, hard-hitting Wu-Tang kind of angle with this tape, but that just didn't happen. The hardest tracks on this thing aren't even really that hard, while the lighter songs really show off the poeticism and the passion of these guys as they delve into either personal thoughts or even romantic ones. Though, you know, still, I'm not going to say it's all apple pie. They are young dudes, foul mouths, blunts. Overall, I mean, I have to say PEEP is just well produced, it's well rapped, it's lyrical, it's skilled, it's energetic, charismatic. It's pretty much everything except adventurous or experimental. I mean, I guess you could argue that, you know, they're adventuring into the old school, but still, I mean, is there an experimental edge here? No. However, I wouldn't say that ruins the vibe of this tape because, again, they do what they do so well. And with some really great production from Lee Bannon, as well as Chuck Strangers, Brandon Deshay on here too, and just a myriad of other producers, I mean, Pro Era picks a really great backdrop of instrumentals with horn hits and just everything to bring that old school vibe. I think the most modern thing that was on any of the beats on this entire tape was the slightly trap-tinged hi-hat on the second to last song on here, Bun and Cheese, but that's about it. I really enjoyed listening to this tape. I guess I would say I loved listening to this tape. I'm feeling a strong 7 to a light 8 on this thing. If you've given it a listen, what did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And what do you think I should review next? Anthony Fantano, Pro Era, forever.